Your mom steered the station wagon into the Sears parking lot on a Saturday in 1973, and you already knew which page of the catalog you had been folding the corner on since October. The Ideal Toy Company had a white jumpsuited figure and a wind-up motorcycle on that page, and somewhere in the same aisle, a Lewis Marks big wheel bet at about $15, waiting for your birthday or Christmas or a particularly persuasive Tuesday. These were the toys that owned your decade and then disappeared without a proper obituary. Not just discontinued, actually forgotten, the way a smell goes when the window closes. Number 11 on this list was the toy Kenner claimed could hit 400 miles per hour, and your mom banned it from the house after it took a chunk out of the baseboards. And number 3, the one every kid on your block eventually took scissors to, turned out to be filled with something sitting in your kitchen right now. If the toy aisle of your 1970s childhood still lives in your head rent-free, hit subscribe because this channel lives there too. Number 15, clackers. The sound came first, that sharp percussive crack you could hear from 2 driveways over, rhythmic and addictive until it was sudden and wrong. 2 solid acrylic balls, each about the size of a golf ball, suspended on a nylon cord with a finger loop at the center. You swung your wrist up and down until the balls smashed together above and below your hand in a fast, clicking loop. Dozens of manufacturers sold them under different names: Kerbangers, Click-Clacks, Clankers, flooding stores by the millions in the early 1970s. Your friends had a pair at recess. The Consumer Product Safety Commission classified them as a mechanical hazard after the hard acrylic balls began shattering on impact, sending plastic fragments toward faces. For one schoolyard summer, that sound was everywhere. Then the silence was sudden. Number 14, super elastic bubble plastic. Wham-O put it in a tube and called it a toy, a thick, chemical-smelling compound you squeezed onto a small plastic straw and blew into a thin, shimmering bubble. The smell came first, sharp and sweet in the wrong way, the kind that meant your mom was going to appear in the doorway any minute. If your lungs held out, the bubble grew bigger than your head. Wham-O introduced it around 1970, and for a few years it lived in Christmas stockings and on corner store racks. The Consumer Product Safety Commission determined it contained acetone and ethyl acetate, chemicals that posed real health risks when inhaled directly through the straw. By the late 1970s, it was gone. The smell you remember is the reason why. Number 13, Mattel's Creepy Crawlers Thingmaker. The smell was the whole experience. That scorched, sweet scent of Plastigoop curing in a metal mold on a heating element running at nearly 400 degrees. Mattel introduced the original Thingmaker in 1964. Pour the liquid Plastigoop into open metal molds shaped like bugs and centipedes, slide them onto the unguarded hot plate, and wait. When the compound cured, it became a rubbery, bendable creature you peeled from the mold with your fingers. Your mom watched from the doorway and made a decision about acceptable risk that felt ordinary then and would be unthinkable today. The open heating element eventually forced Mattel to retire the original design. They made a safer, enclosed version. The burn-sweet chemistry of the original went with the original. Number 12, Mego's Action Jackson. In 1971, Mego Corporation put out their first action figure, an 8-inch plastic man in a cloth outfit dressable in over a dozen adventure costumes. From deep-sea diver to football player, Mego sold 2.5 million of them in that first year. Then reorders stalled, G.I. Joe pulled sales back toward Hasbro, and Action Jackson was forgotten by 1974, discontinued after just 3 years. What Mego salvaged was the insight beneath the failure, mass-produce a generic body, and swap in licensed costumes. That idea became the world's greatest superheroes line, the company's biggest success. Your toy chest probably had a Batman or a Superman built on the same body. Action Jackson proved out. He was the flop that invented the superhero aisle. Number 11. Kenner SSP Racers. You slid the plastic T-stick through the gear on the gyro wheel, wrapped your fingers around the handle, and yanked. The wheel spun up to a whine before the car hit the floor, and when it did, it shot across the linoleum like something launched. Kenner introduced their supersonic power racers in 1970 and advertised them at 400 scale miles per hour, close enough to true that your mom banned them from the house after they gouged the baseboards twice in one afternoon. 9-inch bodies shaped like dragsters and stock cars, powered by nothing but a ripcord and a weighted gyro wheel, were made by Kenner until around 1978. When the T-stick yanked wrong, it snapped back hard enough to raise a blood blister on your thumb. You believe that claim. Here's the thing about this entire list. The Consumer Product Safety Commission did not exist until 1972. Congress created it because American toy makers had operated for decades with almost no external accountability for what they put in children's hands. The year the Consumer Product Safety Commission opened its doors, the toy aisle your mom was already shopping in included lawn darts, acrylic balls that shattered like glass, an open hot plate running at nearly 400 degrees, and a Wham-O product with acetone in it. The agency spent its first years classifying products as mechanical hazards, writing safety standards that had never existed, issuing recalls, and in some cases directing the U.S. Marshal's Office to physically seize shipments from warehouses. The disappearance of many items on this list was not a quiet market correction. It was a brand new federal agency learning in real time what the word toy was legally allowed to mean, using the shelves your childhood ran on as the test case. Most of those toys did not pass. Number 10. Lawn darts. Your dad pulled the box from the garage on the 4th of July, those heavy 12-inch metal-tipped projectiles with bright plastic fins, and set the plastic rings out on the lawn 30 feet apart. Horseshoes with weight and velocity. One team heaved the darts underhand in a high arc, and when a dart found the grass, it landed with a thud you felt in your chest. Also sold under the brand name Jarts, they turned up in sporting goods and toy sections throughout the 1970s. Between 1978 and 1987, American emergency rooms treated nearly 6,700 lawn dart injuries, with more than 3/4 involving children. The Consumer Product Safety Commission pulled them from all United States stores in November of 1988. Your dad's set went into the trash that December, or into the back of the garage where it probably still is. Number 9. The Mattel Vertibird. Released in 1971, the Vertibird was a small helicopter with actual spinning rotor blades, connected by a thin metal arm to a battery-powered base at the center of a themed playset. 2 levers controlled it, one for speed and altitude, one for forward and reverse, roughly the way Mattel said a real helicopter worked. The helicopter flew in circles around the base, and with practice, you could dip it down and hook a plastic figure off the ground with the sky hook beneath the fuselage. Sets came in different themes: Air Police, Airborne Rescue, Polar Adventure. It ran a 10-year production span before Mattel discontinued it in the early 1980s as every kid in America tilted toward a screen. Nothing else flew like that. Number 8. Weebles. Playskool introduced them in 1971 as part of the Milton Bradley family, an egg-shaped plastic figure with a weighted bottom that was physically incapable of staying knocked over. You pushed it, it came back. You threw it at the carpet, it came back. Your little sister spent an entire afternoon trying to disprove the slogan, "Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down," and the slogan won every time. The originals came in hard painted plastic, and the play sets ran from farms and campers to a haunted house that now sells for close to $250 with its original box. After Hasbro acquired Milton Bradley in 1984, the hard-edged egg design gave way to softer figures that were gentler and less specifically themselves. The wobble survived. Do you remember what the original felt like in your hand? Number 7. Shrinky Dinks. Betty Morris and Kate Bloomberg were two Wisconsin mothers who needed a Cub Scout craft project in 1973 and accidentally invented one of the decade's most popular toys, a sheet of thin polystyrene plastic you could color, cut into any shape, and slide into a kitchen oven. The sheet shrank to about 1/3 of its original size and came out thick, hard, and glossy. Your mom opened the oven door and the whole kitchen smelled like warm plastic, and you watched through the glass while your drawing curled and stiffened into something small enough to fit on a keychain. They first sold the idea at a shopping mall in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and it went national from there. The era when baking your own drawings was the Saturday activity for a generation is the part that did not come back. Number 6. The Kenner Blythe Doll. Kenner released it in 1972 at $25, an 11-inch doll with an oversized head and a mechanism that most children found genuinely unsettling. A string at the back of the skull, when pulled, caused the eyes to pivot sideways and click to a new color, cycling through 4 shades: brown, green, purple, and blue. The eyes did not blink. They rotated. Designer Allison Katzman built the concept from a memory of her daughter accidentally wearing mismatched contact lenses, and Kenner produced it as a Barbie competitor with window display packaging. Children were largely frightened by it. Kenner discontinued the doll after 1 year of production. Leftover boxes sat on clearance shelves for years. Original Blythe dolls now sell for over $1,000. The children who ran from it in 1972 could have retired on what they left behind. What connected everything on this list, the dangerous ones and the failed ones and the ones that simply vanished, was what they assumed about the child using them. They assumed you had time. Long, formless, unchaperoned time, with no schedule on the other side and no adult organizing your afternoon. The toys on this list were designed for a kid on a summer sidewalk, a Saturday morning carpet, or a backyard where nobody was checking. The hot plate toy assumed your mom trusted you with heat. The lawn darts assumed your dad explained the arc once and went back inside. The ripcord car assumed you would figure out the angle after a couple of blood blisters. What ended all of this was not just the Consumer Product Safety Commission. It was the slow disappearance of unstructured childhood. The organized sport replacing the empty afternoon, the supervised play date replacing the street, the screen replacing the driveway, and the hour before dinner when nobody knew exactly where you were. The toys went away because the childhood they were built for went away first. What you lost was not the plastic, it was the hours. Number 5. The Mego Micronauts. At the 1976 New York Toy Fair, Mego Corporation unveiled a line of 3 3/4-inch figures with transparent plastic bodies and a universal 5mm peg and hole system that made every limb, weapon, and vehicle in the line interchangeable. Mego had licensed the concept from the Japanese company Takara and brought it to American shelves 1 full year before Star Wars changed what science fiction toys were supposed to look like. The Time Traveler was the signature figure, available in clear, yellow, orange, and blue. Marvel Comics eventually built a comic series around the characters. Mego Corporation filed for bankruptcy in 1980, and the Micronauts went with it. The Star Wars license had taken most of the oxygen out of the room. Transparent bodies, universal pegs, gone in 4 years. Number 4. The Big Wheel. Louis Marks and Company debuted it at the 1969 New York Toy Fair at about $15. It was a low-slung plastic tricycle with a large front wheel and a seat just a few inches off the ground. By the early 1970s, it was outselling conventional tricycles 5-1. Your driveway probably knows the sound. You leaned into the turn, the rear wheels broke loose on concrete, and the low center of gravity caught you instead of letting you pitch over. Marks manufactured them in Girard, Pennsylvania, and kept the Big Wheel as their biggest seller for a decade. In 1972, Louis Marks sold the company to Quaker Oats. In 1980, the company filed for bankruptcy, and the specific Big Wheel that had lived on every American block went with it. Was the one you remember still yours after that? Number 3. Stretch Armstrong. Kenner released it in 1976 for $11. A 10-inch latex figure, arms raised, face locked in a mild grimace that you could pull until it stretched 4 feet before snapping back. The corn syrup inside gave it weight and resistance and kept the latex pliable. No batteries, no moving parts. You pulled it. Your sibling pulled the other end. You both pulled harder. Every kid on your block eventually got scissors to one because what was inside proved more compelling than the toy itself. And what they found was a thick, clear GL that smelled faintly like a kitchen cabinet. Kenner discontinued it toward the end of the decade as older figures hardened and Star Wars shelf space swallowed everything else on their production schedule. The one that looked like a bodybuilder was filled with something your grandma kept next to the flour. Now you know why. Number 2. Mattel Electronic Football. Mattel put it on shelves in 1977 at $29.95. A handheld device about the size of a thick paperback with a red LED display showing your running back as a single blinking rectangle moving through a field of other blinking rectangles. No players, no yard lines, just a moving red dot and a defense you had to juke by pressing the right button at the right fraction of a second. Your dad could not figure it out. Your older brother was certain he had a system. You probably had the highest score in the house. The format Mattel pioneered here filled Christmas stockings for 3 years before the home console generation arrived and made blinking red rectangles feel suddenly ancient. Nothing about it looked like football. Nothing else has ever felt quite like it. Number 1. The Evel Knievel Stunt Cycle. Ideal Toy Company launched the action figure line in 1972, and by 1973 the Stunt Cycle was the toy every kid in America wanted for Christmas. A 6-inch figure in a white jumpsuit sat on a replica of his motorcycle, and you set it in the red plastic launch platform and cranked the lever on the side. No batteries. The gyro wheel built torque with every crank until you released it and watched the bike rocket down the driveway, sometimes upright, sometimes sideways, occasionally into the garage door in a way Evil himself would have recognized. Ideal claimed more than $125 million worth of Knievel toys sold by 1977. Then Knievel assaulted his promoter with a baseball bat, was sentenced to jail, and the toy line ended the same year his public image did. Everything about the 1970s was in that red launch platform. There is a specific driveway in this country, maybe yours, where a kid knelt in 1973 and set a red plastic launch platform down on the concrete and cranked the lever until the gyro wheel sang. Nobody was watching, no scheduled activity on the other side of it, no screen to check for instructions, just the mechanism and the child and the length of the driveway and the question of how far. That was the whole of it. What the 1970s toy aisle gave you, in its chaotic and sometimes dangerous and occasionally recalled way, was friction, real texture, real resistance, a toy that required something from you before it gave anything back. The Evel Knievel stunt cycle, the Vertibird, the Thingmaker, the Ripcord car with its blood blister T-stick. Every one of them pushed back. The childhood that followed was safer. In many ways, it needed to be, but it was also, for whatever this is worth, considerably quieter. Tell me in the comments which one you remember, and if you actually cut Stretch Armstrong open, I want to know what you found inside.